So for my speech today, I'm going to be informing you about what it is like to work on Capitol Hill. In my speech, I'm going to talk about the legislative process, how everything works on the Hill, and then what it is like to be an actual staffer on the Hill and what that means, the day-to-day activities, and all of the benefits you get with that. So starting off, I want to talk about the legislative process and how it works. So in this chart, you see that you start when a bill is introduced. So a bill being introduced means that you have a member of Congress who is the sponsor of the bill, and that's the person who introduces this. Once they introduce a bill, they get other co-signers and other co-sponsors, and then that really pushes it through the legislation process. So once a bill is introduced, it is sent to the correct committee. So what a committee is, it is just like a group of people who focus on a certain issue like homeland, agriculture, healthcare, literally any issue you can think of, it will be sent to the appropriate committee. Then once it is in the committee looks on it and marks it up, which means that they just go through to see what they should change, make suggestions, things along that lines. And then once the committee marks it up, they then vote if they want to send the bill to the floor or just nix it. Most of the times the bills get nixed or get stuck in committee and they never actually see the light of day on the floor. Once it goes into the floor, then it is voted on by either the House or Senate, and then once it's passed either in the House or Senate, it is referred back to the other chamber for the same process, and then once passed by both, it is sent to the president where he either signs it or vetoes it, etc., kind of the Schoolhouse Rock version of how a bill becomes a law. So, because of all of this processes that they have, there are obviously a lot of different staffers and jobs that you can do on the Hill. One of the great benefits of being someone who works for a member of Congress is that you're actually the person who writes the bill and then assists your member in getting sponsors and things like that. So that's what a lot of the people here do. You are also able to help people in your district. So when someone calls and they have a problem with the government agency or they have a problem because of legislation, then it is your job to either help them with a government agency or help change the legislation, which is something that's really cool. So how it works when you start working on Capitol Hill is most people start as a staff assistant, and their job is to just do like the assistant to everyone in their office. They do a lot of tours and things like that, just helping out the staff in any way that's needed. And then you have a legislative correspondent, and the legislative correspondent is the person who replies to all the letters. So when you write in or call and say, hey, I have a question about this or that, they're the person who responds to you. And then you have your legislative team, which again writes the bills and goes through and suggests you should vote for this, shouldn't vote for that, things along those lines. And then you have a communications team. Obviously, they do all of your press, social media, things like that. And then you have your chief of staff. The chief of staff is the highest person paid. That is the boss of everyone, usually the Congress member's go-to person. A chief of staff here in D.C. makes an upward of $135,000, whereas starting as a staff assistant, you can make $35,000. So honestly, it just depends on where you start, and then you work your way up, obviously, just like any other company, starting low of the totem pole, working all the way up to the top. And then members of Congress, obviously, are the top of the chain, but the chief of staff is right underneath that. The requirements for the job, there aren't a lot of specific requirements. Some people need a degree, some people don't. I'm working there and I don't have my degree yet, so obviously it's not a necessity, but it really just takes hard work and someone who is passionate about policy and helping out their country. One of my personal benefits, and I think a lot of other people who I have made friends with who work on the Hill, a great benefit of is that you are serving the people not only of this country, but also people who have those same Christian morals and values and beliefs, and that's one of the coolest things about this job. You get to literally serve the people as a public servant, which is so important. It's talked about so much in the Bible, where Jesus is calling you to serve others, not just yourself. And that's the great benefit of this job. And then you are also able to preserve those values in the Bible, such as life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, because you are the person who is changing things and preserving the things that we want. So that is kind of a very quick overview of what it's like to work in Congress. Obviously, I couldn't cover nearly everything that we talk about, but I hope that you gained a little bit of knowledge of how things work.